Here.
Commissioner Bell?
Here.
Commissioner Boyle?
We're here today to discuss the budget for fiscal year 2019.
Where would you like to start? Yeah, just start with the ambulance.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Phil, sorry. Sure.
Let's see if I can get this so it shows up on the screen here. Okay, so Grant and Jamie and I sat down and went through the expense lines for the, so we'll just start up here at the top. We have the official, that's for the ambulance director per the contract, and also for the assistant per the contract. We have the secretary, which we've put in for a 2% raise on that salary. With the raises in it, this is our estimate for this year. Are you fully staffed right now, Grant?
No.
Okay.
No, so it's actually running a little higher than it will be when we get it staffed by spring, but we're waiting to make sure we fill that with paramedic license.
Yeah.
We're just down to one on full-time.
Okay.
All right. And then the next line is over here. Oh, Grant and Jamie, since you guys weren't at the other ones, the way I did this is put out to the side the requests that they're in orange. So one of the requests that the ambulance department has is to add a line in here for cleaning over there, similar to what we do at the highway department. So we figured, I remember, I think $50 a week is what we use to calculate it. So that's the amount that we use to estimate for cleaning charges.
Who would that be paid to?
We had talked about putting that on the responsibility line with Jim.
Is it not set up now that the custodians here are supposed to be cleaning over there?
Yes,
But they're not.
spot.
The next line on here is for health insurance. Basically just based off of what our new health insurance rates are. And then we add a little bit extra in here because they have employees that have to take a TB test and Hep B vaccinations. And then as we go down, we have the maintenance, same as last year, pretty consistent on what they spend, about $30,000 a year. Travel, I put in here for $3,000. Spent a little bit less than that this year, but you're talking $500 there. So uniforms left it the same as $6,000. 2 years ago we spent closer to $5,000. This year we spent closer to $6,500. But I think they both felt comfortable that if we left it at $6,000, we would be okay.
We had replenished a bunch of our
Oh.
polo shirts this year and made it go over just a little bit. The year before that, we were trying to find a new supplier, so we didn't replace any the year before, so that's kind of the discrepancy.
The supply lines, it's actually increased to $35,000 in here. This year I think we spent closer to, oh sorry, this is fuel. Sorry, not supply, fuel. We spent closer to this $39,000. Again, we remember how we looked at it last time. There's an extra one in here, so I don't think we need 40, but probably 35 is closer to what we're going to need, and not 25 with the increase in gas prices.
Have we checked on the calculations on this? I mean, like we were talking the other day, they were off on.
Yes, and that's why I didn't put this in at more than this year. Like before, we were taking this year's, which was 40,000, and saying we should probably add a little bit. But now we went backed out that not duplicate, but the one from last year that posted in this year, and then took it back down to 35. Well, up. Down from this year, up from last year's budget. There, do you have any more other questions on fuel?
No.
Okay. Their supply line recommended leaving it at the $8,000. Seems pretty consistent with their spending. Medical supplies, 50,000 was the budget last year. Again, really close to what they spend. Maintenance for equipment. Again, leaving
Let me
it.
back up here a minute. Hey, the medical equipment supplies, is that stuff that we're getting out of the machine now?
That would be the prescription meds, less the narcotics, which come from the hospital, but it does come from that supply line and all the soft disposable supplies.
Okay,
And office supplies, and quarter supplies.
okay, so it's all in there
Oh,
together?
no, that's.
No.
No,
Separate line.
and what I'm asking you guys is, the machine, have we seen a savings in more
I think
accountability
we
with the
have,
machine?
I'm not gonna say we have the vast savings, yes, because
Okay.
if you consider the increase, if you look at the numbers there, we're using more, we're running harder, but
Okay,
we have a better control of the flow of the supplies and it's saved all kinds of headaches.
okay,
It's been great.
and that's fine, I just didn't know if that's where that came from.
Yeah, she's reminding me of a couple extra things that were bought this year. I mean, batteries for the cots, and those are free.
That's fine, I was just curious if that was.
Yes,
that line.
I think yes.
Okay, good enough.
Maintenance equipment, same as the budget for last year. This year spent less, year before spent more, so I think this is pretty a reasonable amount for their budget. Service contracts, went through all their service contracts. If you look up here at the very top, I'm moving the mouse up here, they're basically adding up exactly what the contracts are. So to get to this amount, but I'm gonna let Grant talk about this other possible request.
We are, and I can bring you the paperwork on this, are considering talking to Stryker about a maintenance contract on these cots. We went into that program just over 4 years ago. So these cots are coming out of warranty, and as things go wrong, you have to call obviously a technician in to do it. When we call them in to do it, there is a travel charge, all parts and labor. You can come down and do what's called a PM maintenance on 4 cots, and it costs you $1,800 to $2,000 to do that, in addition with any other parts that you might have to put on them, okay? If we enter into a service contract, it is an increase. It costs another $1,000, $1,200 a year, but if we hit a periodic maintenance on 4 cots and nothing breaks, anything happens in that other amount of time, you restart that clock and pay those charges all over again. If we go under contract with them, if something happens, all that travel, everything is covered. Most of the parts are covered, not all. Wear and tear parts obviously are not. But it all runs under basically a service contract. It's kind of like having a warranty.
Do they offer anything to say when you buy a new cot to include the service contract in it for that cot?
They do at the time when you make the purchase, yes, and then there's a warranty period involved with that, but this is the same thing, kind of like an aftermarket, if you think of it like a car warranty.
Right, I mean, going forward, would that be cheaper to do that at the time?
I think it depends on how you look at it. You're playing the odds on whether you're going to have problems or not. And I'll give you an example. We had a portion of a headpiece of a cot that went out, and that part alone, since it wasn't under contract and not under warranty, was close to $1,800. Now that's a pretty extreme example. It could be something that would be very minor. It could be years that, it costs more to hold the maintenance contract. If we do it, we can spread the payments of that contract out per year and budget for it. And I do have those figures at the office. I should have brought those to you, and I can go.
No,
Okay, this is it. This is the
In the long run,
yearly
I think it would
amount.
be cheap.
Yeah,
This
That's
is,
the annual premium right there.
yes, for 3 years.
Angie, did you find out what, did you ever figure out what the 12 times 100 was in that line?
Nope, it's still, yeah,
Okay.
I
So
can't,
that's built into the 10,000.
yes, it's in here.
Curiosity, what does a card cost? I mean,
15.5. But I would add, we haven't had an injury since we've gone into this in 4 years. I mean,
No, I'm just
the
curious.
upside being that, you know, like throwing their back out kind of thing.
Is Jamie asking if we have $1,200 up there that's on service we don't know what we're paying?
Yes, this is one that we had last year that, when we met, we left this in here, but trying to figure out what it is. Hesitant to take it out till I can figure out why it was in there last year.
Yeah.
But I just, Jamie,
Nothing-
could this be your copier charges with T&I? Would they be about that much? No.
188, we already changed that.
And you've looked too, you don't know what it is either?
I don't know why that, or I don't recall why, you know, at that time, that's been a year ago, why that was put in there. Nothing's ringing a bell. I just don't, I don't vouch for anything that's $100.
So I told Jamie I'd go
Unless it
look
was one
at
of
mine.
our estimates, you know, that we estimated something at 100. I do not have anything that's exactly 100 a month, I can tell you that. I don't know.
I was saying if we found that would be 1,200 to 2,600.
Yes, I'm gonna go back and look through my emails between Jamie and I for last year on the budget and see if something rings a bell. If not, we're gonna take it out of there because we don't know what it is.
Okay, good.
That's why it's still right here and why.
No, I would leave it there until we find it.
Their training, put in here to increase to $1,000. They spent $1,500 this year. Their budget last year was $750.
Is that enough, Grant?
It's borderline. It depends on the years that we have to do and where we would pull the manuals for what we call core courses for ACLS, pediatric, advanced life support. You know, there's about 4 of those courses, and we provide the books for those to our people as they come due.
Yeah, because I don't want to cut ourselves short because of budgetary reasons for training.
It would depend on if you wanted to pull it strictly from that line for that cost, or if we could pull it from medical equipment and supplies as well. So.
You good?
Yeah.
Okay. Utilities, put it in there to leave it the same $10,000 budget. They're right around the same $9,800 dollar mark for the last 2 years. Building maintenance, again, leaving the budget the same as the $4,000. They do have a request for an additional $2,500 for a couch and 2 recliners for the quarters. I think they're pretty old and in rough shape. Any questions on that?
No.
And then the last item on there is the liability insurance, and that's been updated for the new rates for this year.
It went down?
Yes. Did we hit on everything, Grant, that you needed to?
We're hoping that, you know, as far as the employee line, that we can bring that actually back down as we bring on that last one because of the overtime difference. So we're hoping that'll help come spring.
Any questions or anything else about their budget?
No.
I'm sorry, I had to step out. What's the building maintenance?
The building maintenance, they have a request in there for a couch and 2 recliners for their quarters.
The current one, I think we've had the sectional for about 8 or 9 years, and it gets used quite a bit. Getting a little rough.
That's it.
Did we have a discussion when we were in the other day, we talked about possibility on a software change that we want to do with the computers that we'll use in the field. We're trying to slowly get away from having a paper copy and a computer-generated copy so that there's no differences in the reports. And we had discussed the possibility, we've looked at one company by the name of EOS, isn't that correct?
Which never copied.
Uh,
Unless it went into junk. I keep forgetting about the mayor doing the junk where if it's a new email, you may not get it. So there is the potential it could have went into the junk and I didn't know it.
We're trying to migrate away so that we make sure we streamline that process, which will go hand in hand with when we talked to you guys last year, same for this year. Some type of field computers instead of doing this by hand. And then also this particular company will integrate, am I not correct, with Harrison billing
I
software
believe.
where we can cut down some of the work across the street there on pre-populated patient records. So,
The system, our system we work under really does not like the fact that we have a paper copy that are two different copies. They are highly suggesting that we get away from that. They feel it's a liability for there to be a difference in two reports for the same incident, basically.
was there also,
And-
did you find out whether if we changed how we were doing the collection policy, if they would be able to offer a broader scope of services to us than the person we're using now?
No, you talking about with the changing collection companies? No, I want us to sit down and call together.
Is this the same one that Tiffany has started to use?
Yes.
Have you had an increase since you went to them?
Oh, yes, I was just showing Tyler since June 7th was our first payment to yesterday, and it's already over 30,000 for the county that she's collected. And that, February, March will be a huge increase because tax returns, they can garnish. So everyone that owes on that, I would say our February, March should be a pretty big increase.
I think there was a question as to whether our department could go that deep and go to a tax return, but, you know, we would be open and willing to, and we want to make sure that we lay out all those steps that are signed by the board on how the collection policy will work. We came and discussed that with the board. The board agreed and said, yes, this is fine on the way we're doing it, but we want to make sure we lay all that down and memorialize it with the board. But if we were to make a change, if we see an advantage there, obviously we should discuss doing that.
Yes. And then the other thing on, that we need to discuss about is capital for the ambulance department. If I'm recalling from reading this, there's no real capital that you're necessarily requesting for next year, but we need to keep in mind that they have an ambulance that could need a motor. We don't know how long that motor's gonna last. If it goes out, you're looking at $22,000 for a new motor for the ambulance. And then also keep in mind that, when we changed the reserves for the ambulance department and started saying, you don't have to have as much reserves, we're keeping them over here for your capital. I believe we came to an agreement that that they buy an ambulance about once every 3 years.
3 to 4.
3 to 4 years. And so we talked about putting aside $50,000 in capital every year so that after 3 years, you have the $150,000 to buy the ambulance.
But we feel like on this, unless something were to go awry, that this next round, the 2014 model, that was put in service in early 2015, now has 144 plus thousand miles on it already. So you can see how quickly it adds up. So somewhere, just again, playing the odds, you get close to that 200,000 mark, you're probably going to start running into problems. The truck is in great shape. The body, the frame, the box. So, you know, instead of having to jump out and possibly spend $150,000 or $60,000 on a new unit, I think we could go with a motor in that truck to save a lot of money and keep going, you know. The only other concern we would have would be, we did put a motor in the International at 88,000 miles or so. It is running fine. But we've been plagued with electrical issues. But for right now, knock on wood, I mean, these things seem to be under control, but you just never know. I mean, they run in harsh conditions, you know, cold and heat and idle for hours and hours, so. We're just trying to make you aware that we're not necessarily pushing immediately for a brand new truck unless it were absolutely needed. We think if everything stays status quo, that probably we'd be looking at replacing a motor instead of a truck. So it's a little bit.
Diesel.
Pardon?
Diesel or gas?
Diesel, yes.
And the computer software would this be capital, or would that come out of one of our line items, or?
The actual software for the computer would
or the builder
would depend on how much it is, first of all, but if it's, you know, a couple $1,000s, it would probably need to come out of a line item. If
what
it's more
about-
expensive, it would come out of capital.
What about like that, if we look at like the iPads,
The actual computers come out of capital.
okay.
And software,
Yes.
This is probably a capital item, but the sheriff had talked to me months ago about if he were to get the turbo system set up on digital coming up in 2019, then we would be looking at 4 digital radios at a cost of about $800 per mobile radio for each ambulance. Plus any installation charges, which I don't know what those are, but that might be a capital expense, but we're making sure you're aware of it since Scott came and talked to me about it on the conversion partially to digital, but we would keep the analog system in place as well.
Yeah,
But we did put it in the email so that you were aware of it.
Right.
He kind of brought that up the other day with his,
Okay. Yeah.
Did you guys go to the digital? I thought Scott had said that the ambulance would stay on analog.
We will for dispatch,
Okay.
but after that, we're gonna encrypt everything. The
I
only
think
other
that
thing,
would be good to do that.
yeah, and you're in a flux between what, you know, analog to digital now, so you're gonna be seeing changes in the coming 4 or 5 years. The other thing out of capital that would bear mentioning is the cardiac monitors. They stopped making the particular model that we have in 2016, May of 2016. So federal rules read the parts are available for 7 years. So we're 2 years into that plus now. So hopefully in the next 3 years or so, we need to start the discussion about how are we going to convert to whatever the next generation of cardiac monitors is and keep up the 12-lead program, which leads us back to the whole discussion we've had about our StatHeart program that you're all aware of and so on, getting people straight to surgery.
Those are very expensive, and we were thinking maybe FY 20, 21, 22, doing one a year because they're that expensive. We're talking like 22, 25.
We're talking 25 to 35 if you start putting capnography and everything on.
So that's per unit.
But we're going to continue to use the ones we have, which are doing fine. We have an outfit that comes down and certifies those. Now, we have one of those 3 units that we cannot do capnography readings from now. And we got a hold of Phillips Corporation to price the board to give you an idea of how expensive things can get real quick, all the way back to the cot discussion. The one board for that one monitor was $5,000. And we said, no. That'll be the first one we'll replace under the other. So we could go out and, you know, buy a used unit and take our chances for less money than that. But we're just reminding you that in the next 2 or 3 years that this will have to be a discussion we'll have to keep up with technology. So
back on your revenue side, where are we, where should we be, I guess? What can we do to expedite it as far as the conversations with the hospital on paying for your transfers?
I think that I've said for a number of years now that we need to open that discussion. I think there's value in it for the board. I feel like that we are making some transports that don't fall under the guidelines with Medicare.
Well,
And so that everybody understands why we're having this discussion. We can't bill those because it would be fraudulent to do so. So someone has to become responsible for that transport, and the hospital is choosing to send them out.
but with you knowing that they're paying other services.
I know from, not from this particular
But the SIH.
location,
Yeah.
but through another one in Marion, yes. No, it's not SIH. But their sister hospital did budget money for the service for what we deem as unbillables. And I think that's a discussion we need to open locally because
Well, they
we
know the
continue to do it out of
they know
moral
the
obligation.
conversation is on the horizon because we had a meeting for the,
Eclipse,
I purposely brought that up.
I remember.
Well, we don't have to discuss it today, but
No.
I would like for you to push forward on that and whatever we have to do as a board to get another meeting going.
I think Angie has a couple of ideas that she's already mentioned to me in regards to that,
Okay. I just want
how
that
she
to
wants to
be
handle it.
be a
But yes.
priority and get that moving. So,
Well, what Jamie's referring to is we take these patients often from ER to the helipad, which is a physical problem for layout out there. They need to be able to move them for flight. And we do that and we don't mind, but it does type a rig. But we have been trying to send those particular billings at that point to the air service and they are not being paid. They're being ignored. And you've been doing that for how many months now?
Probably almost this whole
Yeah.
fiscal year.
where they paying before,
No,
we didn't even bill it before.
but see, because we're picking up the flight crew, taking them to the hospital,
Right,
waiting.
grabbing the patient waiting, and taking them back to the helicopter. Technically, even though it's the hospital's patient, I feel like that's really more of the helicopter's responsibility to that company.
I agree with that.
You know, there are times, sometimes that we don't pick up the crew, but not very often. Normally we pick them up, take them back. But somebody needs to be responsible for that because
We're tying up staff
It-
too.
we can't bill for that. We're not taking them anywhere. We're going from the hospital address to the hospital address. Like, there's nothing we can do to bill for that. If one of them don't pick up that tab.
They're saying that they're not there until they get on the hospital, until they get on the helicopter. I mean, that's,
Who calls you to pick them up?
Hospital.
yeah, we'll.
Which
we'll
could
let-
become part of the whole discussion.
Absolutely.
Start saying it.
It's a whole other
They
subject,
can
but
filter in.
could become-
No, it will, it'll come up in the same conversation. Nope, I'm good.
Anything else?
No.
All right, thank you. Would you like to move on to circuit clerk or state's attorney?
See whoever needs to go first. Is that? Anybody's got anything? I think mine's big, great.
Do yours first, all right. So this is the state's attorney section of the budget. The official, that's just the salary for next year, 2019. The assistant line is, where there was some turnover last year. So in the original budget for 18, you had certain amounts budgeted in here. Then we had an ASA that left, and then the new ASA came in at a higher wage. So this is one where I need your direction on how you would like this entered for the 2019 budget. Tyler has his request. Can you see those? No.
I can't see them, no.
Has his request in there for the amounts for 2019. So right now, what's in there are the salaries that you budgeted last year with 2% raises added to those salaries. However, this will not be enough money to cover the two ASAs at even their current wage. So does that make sense?
I'm looking at it, trying to figure it out.
So in the 2018 budget, the first one was budgeted at 68,340. Her actual salary is 69.5. If you do a 2% off the 68,340, it becomes 69,707. So $207 more than what she's actually making right now. The request that coming from Tyler is to raise this employee to 72.5. The second employee was originally budgeted as a different individual at 38,760. Her actual salary is 52.5. If you did the 2% off of the 38,760, it's only 39,535. It's less than what she actually makes right now. The request has come in for a increase for her to move from 52.5 to 60,000.